Today I'm going to work on pen and ink and
Okay.
watercolor. And I'm not sure exactly my approach. I'm just going to go by the way I feel. So what I have handy is I have a stick that I sharpened in my pencil sharpener. I have some Daler Rowney ink. And I have a little container of water. And then I have this palette, this wonderful palette. I only have 3 colors in it right now that I used in my last demo, but I'm going to add to it. So what I'm going to add to it, just looking at my reference photo, which is of my little studio in my backyard, I think I will add a little bit more, a different red. I want to get my, I think I'll get the, either opera or a permanent rose. I have to put my glasses on so I can see what it is. Oh, that's alizarin crimson. Okay, here's a permanent rose.
I vote for that over opera
Yeah. Tell us why, Tim.
because opera is a violet.
Mm-hmm.
So in terms of trying to get a red, you know, a true something approximating a true red, you're much more likely to get it with the rose.
I think I learned that lesson, didn't I, in the last the last.
But it was interesting not being able to, because it kind of forced you to work within a limited range chromatically.
It did, didn't it? So okay, so I've got those. I've got phthalo blue. What's that yellow? It's azo yellow. And
Or benzimidazolone, or you know, whatever they call it.
yeah. And then
What did you say about Tim? What was the yellow you said?
is it called azo or something like that?
Or benzimidazolone.
Is it
The long
nickel
one.
azul?
Let me look on the tube.
Is that what you said, nickel? Azul?
She said she's gonna look.
It says azo yellow.
Mm-hmm.
See? Oh, it's not in focus.
Oh, yeah, I see it. Thank you.
Mhm. And I might want to add a little burnt sienna too, just because I feel helpless without burnt sienna. Can't tell you why. Maybe it's because I ran out at one time and then I never got over it. Oh, I just had it. Where'd it go? All right, here it is. A little bit of burnt sienna.
And that can be useful from the standpoint of it's basically an orange, you know, it's like an earth orange.
Yeah,
So if you wanted to get a true red, you can probably, you know, push the rose with a touch of the burnt sienna to get a little more redness.
good. Okay,
Just a thought.
good thought. Okay, I also have these pens in here. I actually found a pen. He was talking about vintage pens, that one guy. I have a pen that I had from probably 30 years ago. And it's called a Silver Line. It's a fountain pen, but it's not waterproof ink. So if I use it, I'll use it at the end. And I have these pens that are micron pens. I'm going to start, however, with my stick. I'm not going to draw first. I'm just going to be brave and use my stick and draw intuitively. And we'll see what I end up with. I put some tape around the outside edge already of my paper, so I have that. And I'm going to start with just a lemon on the outside. Whoops, I got a big blob here. I think when it sharpened, it got a blob on the end. Let's see if you can see that. I may have to rethink this. Let me see. I guess I should have tested it first. Now, the nice thing about drawing with a stick is that it dries out as you're drawing. So you get a little bit of a variation in the line, the value of the line too. That's kind of a nice thing. And then let's see, over here, I've got some bushes in here, and here I've got a darker bush over in here. I'm going to put that aside because it's oh, you know what? I have another end to the stick. This end, it looks kind of weird, but it's got some little points on it. So let me see if I can use part of the stick. So now I'm just kind of meandering my way across here. Little pond there. Okay, so those are my thicker lines. And so I have a little bit of a layout there of what I want. And now I'm going to use a thinner line now for the distance, for the little building in the distance. So I need to go to a pen that would be like oh, I've got a bunch of 5s. Let's see if I have something thinner than that. Okay, here's a 1. That's the thinnest one. So I'm going to go now to the building. I need to bring some of the foliage over a little bit too more. Okay. These were California poppies that were growing in a pot. Geraniums. Okay, now to come into this foreground area. Some of the stones. Okay, so I have a basic pen and ink sketch there now. It's very loosely done and not very detailed at all. And I have to wait just a little bit for it to dry. I want to try something I haven't done before that Ian Fennelly did, and that is to try these Tombow markers. So while I'm waiting for the ink to dry, hopefully I can use some of that without it being an issue. If I'm more selective about where I put it, I guess. And these are various grays. So what I'm going to look at right now is where I want some grays that I think might help to speed up my process here. So on some of the shadow areas here. Not putting this pole in there either is kind of, it gets too distracting. Okay, now I'm going to go in with some ink or some watercolor. Okay, I'll start with a little bit of the blue. Oops. Where's my paper towel? I'll have to have that.
That looks great.
So far, so good, huh? All right, so this here. So here I go with my blue. I'm going to mix a little of the green into it that I already had here. And it wasn't a sunny day, but I'm going to make it a more sunny day here. And because there's foliage back here, putting in burnt sienna with my phthalo blue and a little bit of yellow because I want to get a darker bluish green so that the house will stand out. And then I'm looking over here, I could put a little bit of this in here, but I'll add a little more yellow to it. You see patches of light here, so I'm adding some of those. Before I get too carried away, I want to do something a little more spontaneous, so I want to put in some where some of the flowers are. Well, I should take this out so I'll have more mixing space. I'm just spattering. Because I want it to be more random. Now I'm going to mix a little of the opera with some of the yellow. Not opera, permanent rose. And so, and then there's a pinkish tone over in here. Some geraniums. Okay, so now, because I'm running out of time, I better get some of the house in there. And I don't want it to really be completely bright yellow, so think I'll stick a little bit of the orange mixture in there. I wanted to have a little bit of shading under the eaves, but you know, my paper's flat, so hopefully it'll stay. I better angle it a little bit. This way. And then I need to do the roof. All right, I have to find my smaller brush. My number 6 Velvet Touch. Long round. Not exactly the right color of blue, but it's going to have to do.
I was just about to ask you, which blue is this again?
Well, it's phthalo. It's not, I mean,
Okay,
probably
yeah,
should be cobalt, but it's not. So it is what it is.
it is what it is. No worries.
Right. Oops.
I was actually looking on the handprint site between the last class and now. And there's actually a wide variety of phthalos. That's not my experience, but what they were saying was it's really kind of depends on the brand. You know, it can vary. It can be biased towards green or biased towards red.
Oh, yeah. Now, even though it's not this way on the actual building, I'm putting some blue around the windows. I may actually decide to make a change to my windows because I feel like, oh, it would be nice to have a little bit of blue there.
And I don't know how it looks to you, but on my screen, it looks like a greenish blue.
It is, I think I added a little green to it. Or a little yellow, actually. Okay, so I want to spread some of that color around. So in this section of where there's the foliage.
What a beautiful spot.
Oh, I still have to do something with this other side. There's actually a little more of the building over here, so I'll just add a little bit more of it over in here, but it's kind of hidden by some other bushes. It says it's getting close to time to stop. Get with it.
still, it's a great sketch demo, you
Well, it
know?
gives you an idea of the process. Remember, that's
Yeah.
mainly
Process.
want you to think about is your process. Oops, that was a mistake. If you're trying to do a green and you don't want it to be as bright, you can add a little bit of burnt sienna. I did too much of it. Now look at the value pattern. And if you see darker values as you're trying to finish up, you put those darker values in to accent what you have, to help lead your eye where you want it to go. And over here on this side, I didn't really address this either. And I want more flowers in there, so. To do something about the windows. A little darker. And I didn't get the orange of the poppies. I think I've got my yellow contaminated already. Okay, there needs to be more done, obviously. Few more darks and so forth. Just to help to accent things, like there's a little jug here in the pond that I could do something with. More foliage over in here. And then I want a little more yellow down in here. Whoops, that was not intended. Okay, just a couple more little dabs of color. See if I can get it a little closer so you can see it better here.
Oh, Sylvia, that's just so pretty. You make note cards.
Oh, I don't know. Thank you, though. One thing I do want to do, what I like to do at the very end also is spatter a little bit of gouache on there. Because where I have some places where it's sort of like one solid dark tone. I'd rather have a little bit of breaking up of that, so. It needs some tweaking.
Sylvia, I have a question. A lot of times you hear people talk about connecting your darks or connecting your lights. Do
Yes,
you think about that?
I do, and that's something that still needs to be done right here. You see how there's this gap of light here? It needs to actually have a little bit more to it where it's connected. But there's something about this too, where you just add a little bit of spatter at the end, which helps. But now that you mention it, I do want to get rid of this channel of white. Because that's, leading the eye. Your eye goes to the area of highest contrast. And that's not what I want right there. So let me get rid of that. And there is a lighter value here and some yellow. And then I do want a little bit of white still around my windows too, so. Want to have white on the outside edge. Guess that's not going to show. Okay, I think I fiddled with it long enough.
It's so charming.
Yeah, fun to watch.
Someday I'll invite you all over for a party.
Oh,
and
make it look so